Okay, folks, I think we'll get started. We're about 4 to 5 minutes behind already, and I'd like to welcome you to matching your cattle enterprise with your goals and vision with Justin Zahradka. I specifically requested the introduction for Justin Zahradka. I just think that what he's done and what he's been able to do is really important, and he's really an inspiration. We had Justin, are you still in your 20s? You're very young, aren't you?
Just had a birthday, Daryl.
You did, huh?
Yeah, I'm in the next decade now.
Oh, you are. You know, and this guy's been around a long time, and he started some things, I believe, back 2011, 12 years ago, and you know, we've had him at the Minokan farm, we've had him talk at different things, and if you're a young person or even an old person, I mean, he's got a lot to offer, because I consider him pretty much self-made. He went down the journey of soil health and regenerative ag and continues on that journey, obviously, because it's a lifelong thing, and I just have the utmost respect for him. I'd like to tell everyone, if he wasn't here, I'd tell everyone that I actually discovered him, but no, I didn't. I think he just discovered himself, and I'm really anxious to hear what he's got to say today, because again, I followed him since he was a wee lad, I guess, if you will, and I always like to learn from Justin and hear about his progression of what he's got going on. And he does it in a part of the world that not a lot of people do it in. And that's the other thing that maybe sets him apart from other folks his age. And you know, he's in that northeast part of the state, and so obviously sometimes they have a different philosophy over there, or the soil types, and he makes this work with a cattle operation, and so with no further ado, let's turn it over to Justin Zahradka.
Thanks, Daryl. And good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. We're just starting to come on. Perfect. So I'm happy to be here. You know, Trish asked me, hey, would you be interested in speaking at the mentor workshop? I said, yeah, okay. And then I said, well, is there any topics we need to cover? And she said, well, no, that's up to you. What do you want to talk about? And I was like, give me a few days to think about it, and then I'll get back to you. So that's what I did. And, you know, there are a lot of things across my mind. You know, there's talks on winter grazing, or, you know, different management things on the production side. And I was like, yes, that's all important. But I guess what I've realized here lately is that the business side is very crucial to your operations too. So I guess that's kind of why I'm here today, is I want to share some of the experiences I've had throughout the last 10 or 15 years to help you kind of build a business. And you know, maybe you need to transition your business to something, but I feel like through the experiences I've had, you know, I have something to offer you, just kind of with what I've done, and sharing those thoughts and ideas with you. So who is this guy? Daryl mentioned I am up in the northeast part of the state there. If you know where Devil's Lake is at, about the farm is 45 miles northeast of Devil's Lake. Our family lives in Grafton, North Dakota. And so Molly and I were married back in 2017. We have a little daughter. She'll be 3 this coming May, and we just had a son born in December. So you know, you think you have a business figured out, and then you start a family, and you're like, whoa, you know, something's got to change here, because your time on what you spend doing really changes too. So that's been fun to navigate that. So I both farm and ranch, have cattle, and then I have cropland as well. So doing some of both, and a lot of times they complement each other very well. We already covered that, started a long time ago. Back in 2011, I didn't have any of my own cattle at the time, But it was just something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to farm. Since I was a little kid, I'd be making tracks in the carpet on the floor, that type of thing. And I had an opportunity come up in 2011. I rented 40 acres of land. It had been in grass. I tore it up to farm it, and the county in Walsh County, they were looking for a cover crop demonstration project at the time. So I kind of signed up and got involved in that. So that was 40 acres. Planted a forage-based cover crop on that, and my dad's cattle grazed on it, and I measured the daily rate of gain, and that's kind of what got me into all this. And then, yeah, I went and got invited to the Burley County SCD meeting and shared my results there that year, and that's kind of what propelled me to the next level. The enterprises I have right now are cow-calf, heifer development. There's a hay enterprise. It just depends on how specific you want to get. The crops I grow: wheat, corn, soybeans, pinto beans, and canola. So that's just a different area of the state. So we're growing different crops. And right now I'm managing around 1,200 acres. And you know, at one time I've had up to about 160 pairs on the place. So I'm just sharing that with you so you can kind of just know the size and scope of the things I'm talking about today. So we'll just kind of go through the experiences I've had, and we'll be able to talk about this more. So when I was still in college, I was running feeder calves and stocker cattle. And, you know, there was a point when I started farming, and then my dad sold all his cattle, so the yard was totally empty. The facilities were there, you know, but I've had to buy all the livestock and all the equipment and everything, so you know, that's kind of a unique start compared to people who have a family and ranch to come back to. So I started with feeder calves. I did 20 the first year. That one really good, so I had 90 the second year. This was in 2013 and 2014, so I was like, hey, this is going really good, so I doubled it, was up to 180. We all remember what happened in the cattle market in 2015 and 16, and that was a disaster, so I didn't do that again. I switched to custom grazing for 2 years after that, and have somebody else bring their cattle to me, graze them from, I think it was June 1st to November 1st. That worked really good for a couple of years, and I was also working as a crop scout during the summer for a crop consultant while I was doing that. And then I had the bright idea, well, I'm taking care of all these cows anyways, I might as well just own them. So I decided I had to go out and buy a bunch of cows. And I didn't want to borrow too much money, so I thought, well, I'll buy some, and then I need more cows. So then I took on a bunch of cows on shares too. And I've been doing a little direct marketing through all this. It's, you know, I haven't focused on it a lot, but it's kind of, you know, something where if there's an animal that doesn't fit the group when you go sell them in town, you know, I'd keep them back and finish them out and just kind of market some beef that way. And then last year I added a heifer development enterprise, so I'm kind of just kind of all over the place, but there's reasons why, and I'll get to that. So getting into kind of the focus today here is why do you farm and ranch, or why do you want to farm and ranch? So we're all a team here, so I'm going to call on some team members. So I need some examples from all of you. Why are you guys here today? Why do you want to farm and ranch? I'm going to stand here until we get answers. I'm going to be stubborn. Not as stubborn as Daryl, but still a little stubborn.
I guess I'll just start. I'd say that it's the independent lifestyle. I mean, being your own boss has got its perks at times. And then, of course, generally speaking, when you're a farmer and a rancher, you spend some of your time and a lot of your time outdoors. So, I mean, if you like that sort of thing.
Let's go to this side of the room.
Hopefully make a living.
Okay, somebody wants to make money. That's cool. That's a good idea. Sometimes we forget that part. How about this side of the room?
Well, I don't farm and ranch, but my organization that I'm part of, we support rural living in rural communities. And the way we feel is that we feel very strongly about local control and making sure that strong markets and strong producers are the economic engines driving the community rather than outside corporate interests, and trying to basically maintain the family farm lifestyle so that we can have a sustainable future here in North Dakota.
Very well said, very well said. Yeah, so sounds like they're really community focused.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing. Does anybody else have anything they want to share?
I guess for me, it's trying to do something a little bit better the next year. Like, can I get a little bit higher percentage of lambs? And like, not just the little tiny incremental things that you figure out. Right, the figuring it out is the fun part. It's not even really the result. It's like the puzzle.
Gotcha. So, cool. So yeah, so I have basically all those things. So outdoors, nature, you get to work outside. Nobody mentioned family. You can work with family.
I like that. Working with my wife.
Family farms.
Right, yeah, family. Yep. Freedom, be your own boss, see the results of your work. So those are all great things. So what, all those things kind of lead into, what is your purpose? What, you have to sit down and ask yourself why. And we're not going to get that done here talking about this for a half hour today. But if you really want to, build a business, you have to figure out what your why is and kind of build your business around that. And, easier for said than done. And some guidelines to help you figure it out is, who is going to be your customer. That's kind of what you have to think about. And then another question is, what problem are you going to solve for them? So we're talking about grazing land. So in my neck of the woods, maybe somebody has a bunch of corn and they have too much corn residue in their field, so they want to get rid of it. Well, I could maybe build a business around grazing crop residues or something like that. Maybe somebody needs a lot of fence built. You could build a business around that. So you have to figure out what is there a need for out there and kind of build your business around that. It could be a product. Are you going to sell grass-fed beef because somebody needs nutritious food, or are you going to build a fence for them or something like that? And then why should they pick you? How can you differentiate yourself from you versus somebody across the road or somebody across the county or wherever? You have to think about what your strengths are and kind of figure out how to market those so that they'd be interested to you. This is one of my favorite quotes. It says, "You can only serve yourself through service to others." And that really hits home for me. That's kind of why I'm here today, is I feel like I can be of service to you, sharing my thoughts and ideas. I mentioned the acres and how many cows I have, whatever. I could have 500 cows and farm 10,000 acres. That isn't going to make me any happier at the end of the day. So there's a different why within me, of why I'm doing it. So I mentioned I had a birthday. Maybe it's the wisdom with old age, but it's taken me a little while to figure this out. And it always changes too. You kind of detect it as life goes on. It's not something that's just you're born with it. No, it definitely changes. And when you're thinking of the business, if you're by yourself, it's what are your values, what are your family's values? If you have a business that has employees, what are the values of the team when you're all together? Those are things you need to get together and think about. So these are just some examples, of what could be valuable for you. They're kind of things we've already touched on. Just honesty. They can believe in what you're doing and trust you. If you're producing a product, a finished product with beef, they know that their bodies will be nourished with good food. Regenerating land, that's something I really like to focus on, is building soil. And livestock husbandry, if you're going to do custom grazing, somebody can know that you're going to take excellent care of their cattle and they'll come back in good shape. And then the community building, do you want to be able to support people in your community so that not everybody keeps moving away? This is what I mentioned before, so you got to build a business around your goals and vision. And the big thing is location and environment. So, what I'm going to do is very different from what's going to happen in Bismarck or west of here. But the principles are still the same. You need to match your enterprise to your environment. And I mentioned I went out and bought a bunch of cows, had a cow calf for years and years, and I'm kind of scratching my head right now. And you know, is it really worth me to have cows if I'm gonna feed them for over 200 days a year? And so that's kind of why I mentioned I'm still trying different things, is I feel like I haven't fit my enterprise environment very well. And then quality of life, that's obviously changed for me starting a family too. I'm an achiever, and my wife is an achiever as well. So it's pretty easy when we didn't have kids. I'd go work on what I want to do. She'd work with her career, what she wanted to do. We'd both be happy. We're both achieving things. And then you throw some kids in the mix there, and you're like, whoa, we're way too busy. So we gotta, you know, something's got to give someplace. And then how can you add value? If I could go back and start over, this is something I'd really focus on, is finding a place, you know, whether it's with a service or within the cattle industry, and figure out how you're going to take an animal and add value to it. You know, when I got all those cows, I was basically doing the same thing as everybody else was, and you know that doesn't add value to your program. And that leads in, when you're adding value, there's kind of a few ways to do that. You know, what's your unfair advantage or what's your competitive advantage? There's kind of two ways to go with this. So one's a cost advantage and one's a differential advantage. So the cost advantage is just what it sounds like. You know, you can produce your product or service for less expense than the next person. You know, so that, you know, can you run a cow in the winter for $200 less than what the state or county average is? So that's an unfair advantage for you. And I don't know, maybe you exchange labor for land or something, so your land cost can be really low, you know, or what you would pay in rent, maybe that's really low, so that could help you with your enterprise. Or maybe you live someplace that has byproducts that you can feed to cattle, and you have really cheap feed that's nearby. Those are all ways that you could lower your costs. And then with the differential advantage, you know, there's a few things, you know, so you grass-fed versus grain-fed, or just differentiating. You know, if you perceive that grass-fed is superior and more nutritious, well, make sure you're teaching people about that, and that'll help you build your business. Maybe there's a certain genetic line that you're interested in, and you think that can help people because they're a more effective or efficient animal. That's another way. And then, you know, I have at the bottom there experience or lack of experience. So maybe you grew up in town and it was your dream to farm and ranch. So you think you have a lack of experience, but that can actually be an advantage because you're not trying to unlearn everything you've seen so far in life. And if you've been in the industry forever and know how to work with animals really well, that could definitely be a good advantage. This is a fun one here, cow depreciation. And this is kind of random, just thrown in here, but when we're talking about how to add value in the cattle industry, this is a really important curve. You know, I used to never worry about depreciation. I thought, well, that's something I got to worry about one time when the accountant says, you know, what your taxes are about this time of year. When they talk about depreciation, I had no clue what it was. I didn't go to school for economics. But I've been slowly learning about this, and so I feel like it's really important just to touch on this a little bit. Can you read this, or is it too blurry?
No, that's fine.
Anyway, there's a WH, a BH down here. It just stands for weaned heifer, bred heifer. So what it's kind of showing, and these, I just stole this off the internet. So these values must be a couple of years old. You know, just double the numbers. That's where we're at today with the cattle market. But you know, say your weaned heifer right now is worth $1,500. Well, maybe you can keep her and breed her next year, and all of a sudden she's worth $3,000. So maybe that's unrealistic to say it's that high, but a few people are selling them there right now. But anyways, she doubled in value, you know, and hopefully you can run a heifer for less than $1,000 or $1,500 a year. You know, there's risk involved. What's your breed up going to be, and a lot of different things like that. But that's just an example of how you can find a place to add value. Maybe you don't want to deal with breeding heifers. Well, you could buy the expensive bred heifer. That's just fine. But then, you know, if you buy her here, who wants to sell her down here when she's worth $1,000? Anybody? No? okay, you're gonna want her to sell her here when she's about a 5-year-old. So that's a way where you could buy, you know, buy an animal, have some output, have that calf out of her right away, and resell her, and she's worth, you know, if the market doesn't change, which it's going to, but she's going to be worth almost as much as what she was when you bought her. Where we get really, where we lose a lot of money in the cattle industry, you know, are on these last years, you know, your 5th and 6th calf down to, you know, whenever they fall out of your herd. And I'm just as guilty as this as anybody else. You know, when I had 150 cows for a few years, it was just, I kept everything that bred, you know, that bred up good, and that was it. You had your 10% opens, those are the ones that went to town, and yeah, you were getting $800 for them. So you know, it's taken me a long time to come to terms with this, but, you know, you'd be better off selling, you know, that whatever animal when she's worth her full value versus when she's worth, you know, half of that within a couple of years, because, you know, each year you keep this cow and you basically lose $200 a year, you know, with today's market, or maybe more than that. So yeah, you might say you get a $1,500 calf out of there, but figure in depreciation, you know, that calf is only worth $1,300 and so on. And there's a lot of arguments, you know, people say, well, my 5-year-old cow, she's the best one in my herd. You know, I hear that a lot, and so I'm not gonna get rid of her. And if that's your program, if you want to breed longevity into your cows, you know your cows can make it really good till they're 12 years old, fine, go for it. But you know, it's proven, like the average cow has like 4.2 calves or something. It's an industry average. So we all think our cows last forever, or I used to think my cows would last forever. The truth is they don't. So any comments or questions about this?
So when you're selling at the 5 or 6 year, that's basically to market to be slaughtered? Or is it selling them to be bred for a few more years?
Yep. So it'd be selling, you know, somebody else can pick them up and breed them for a few more years, hopefully. Yep.
Okay, because that's where it kind of scrambles my circuits, because if it's going down to 10 years, you know, like your value is down there, why would anybody buy a cow at 5, 6 years only to know that they're going to depreciate that fast, you know, over the next 4 years?
Yeah, it totally depends on your program. Like, you got to think about it. Depends on your level of management. But say you run 1,000 cows. You know, if you can buy 5-year-old cows that are proven, but you can have 2 less employees because you don't have to babysit heifers. You know, you're saving, what, $100,000, $50,000 per person? You know, so there's things that offset it too.
Gotcha.
So that's why every cow sells at the sale barn. You know, somebody's.
The average age of the producer is getting up there and not wanting to cap that person.
Exactly. So right now the 3 to 6-year-old cows are just at a premium because nobody wants to calve out heifers. So yeah. So there's, you know, there's ways, and then yeah, maybe you want to wait to buy the cow till she's down here. And you know, she's guaranteed pregnant, and you can keep her for a year, get the calf, and you can resell the cow for maybe the same as what you paid for it, you know.
Gotcha, okay.
Yeah, Daryl?
Sam, too, to answer your question, unfortunately, people in the cow-calf industry and in agriculture, we're not very good bookkeepers. And that's just the honest truth. Very few people take into consideration depreciation on a cow.
Yeah,
I can talk to 10 rancher friends of mine and that maybe aren't in these circles, and again, I'm not, and they'll look at you like you're a ghost because they don't understand it. And so that's what we're up against in the industry as well. And again, everybody's got a different way of doing things, and I don't degrade any of them, but there has to be an awareness there that we're just not, we don't talk in those circles when it comes to depreciation.
Right. Yeah, it's, you know, it's a hidden cost. You don't write a check for depreciation every year. If you had to write a check, you'd be thinking about it.
Well, absolutely.
I mean, you do, but not physically.
Right.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so enough talk about all that. Let's talk about some fun things. So here's something. So I'm grazing cropland land that might be in CRP, WRP, all these different programs. So I needed a portable fence, way to put a portable fence quick. Here's what I came up with. It's a little tricky to see here. So I bolted this bar on my four-wheeler. So this is my rack that holds rebar stepping posts I made. So that just slides on there. 25 posts on there. So and then it just slides in and out, and that's my poly wire there. So I drive along, the wire unrolls, grab a post off the top of the four-wheeler, pop it in the ground, keep on going. I wrecked like 3 carts that I bought in town, so I welded up my own. I've only tore the hitch off of it once so far, but that holds extra wire and posts and stuff. So this goes really quick. I can put a hot wire on 80 acres in 4 to 5 hours, and that's been really important for me. It
What
allows
about
a lot
the
of
ground being
flexibility.
froze?
What's that?
What about the ground being frozen?
So the ground was froze when I put these posts in. You can see there's snow. I just took a cordless drill with a cement bit and made a little hole and put the post in. And
Your rebar posts, they're self-made, you just cut a piece of rebar and then you put an insulator on it and that's what you use?
yeah,
And I assume it holds up. I mean, obviously, I've used lots and lots of different posts and some are better than others, but in the frozen ground, you could even take a hammer and tap in
you could.
to a point.
Well, depending on how frozen it
Right.
is. Yeah.
But yeah, if you got a pilot hole,
Yep. And they don't need to be in the ground 2 feet.
no, right.
That far. They're
Right.
not gonna tip over. Yeah, so I got really ambitious and, they always say do something once and do it right. So I bought lengths of 20-foot rebar, half
Right.
inch, cut them down. Those posts are so heavy on that post rack. I would not use half-inch rebar
You
again.
could probably go a little lighter.
Yeah, and then, they're just the screw-on insulator. So that's the part that breaks off, Those posts will be bouncing around that trailer behind there, and, you have to carry a couple bags of insulators
I
with
see you
you.
use white insulators. Is that any particular?
They're-
You guys are particular.
Yeah, they're Gallagher. I
Right.
think they hold up, but, there was a deal in the store on the yellow brand, whatever they are. They all work. I feel like the
No, I
Gallagher are a
know.
little more sturdy, but,
I was just curious.
And this is to go with the poly wire fence alarm. Has anybody heard of this? No? So it runs off cell service, and so it monitors the voltage of your fence as long as you have cell service. If your fence shorts out, it sends you a text message, so you can check the voltage of your fence 24/7. For me, it's awesome because, the farm is here and I have a pasture 15 miles this way and I have a pasture 20 miles that way. I'm not gonna be driving back and forth every day to check cows. If the fence is on, I'm not worried about the cows being in or out.
Is that a name brand, Justin, or is that a Gallagher product?
That's the brand, Fence Alarm. Yeah, just fencealarm.com. And so I've been using these for 5 or 6 years. And so you have to buy the machine and then it's a monthly subscription, like $9.99 a month or whatever. Well, one trip back and forth to the pasture pays for that.
So that's the energizer and
That's just the alarm. It's not an
Just the
energizer.
alarm.
No,
So
so
you can use any energizer.
any energizer, yep. Yeah, so it just depends on the brand, like the Gallagher energizers. For some reason you have to flip there's a ground here, this black one, and the fence. For some reason Gallagher's, you gotta switch them around backwards, just the way the machines are made. Like the Speed Right or Stay Fix, you hook them up the same. But yeah, any brand energizer would work with it. So, and when we're talking about fencing, I use, everything's runs on battery power. And finally, I got tired of switching batteries, so I went on Amazon and bought 100-watt solar panel kits for whatever, 120 bucks. Started using those. Then I don't have to set an alarm to change a battery once a week on the fence, so it just charges and don't
How
have to
big is
worry
that
about it.
100 watts? So is it just like a regular?
About this wide and that tall. I just set it on the ground and
Right.
lean it
And
against
Right.
it.
then a regulator and everything.
It comes with the,
Oh, it does?
yeah, I think that's right,
Or whatever.
regulator, yeah, so the voltage doesn't go crazy. Yeah.
You're pumping out some pretty good joules then,
Yeah, like, I don't know, not, like the Stay Fix, I have the X3 and X6, so that's 3 joules and 6 joules, so they're not huge.
yeah, but that's
You can get hit by 3, that's enough.
When you're bending over to switch the battery and it's raining and you have a raincoat and you forget where the fence is and touch it with your forehead, you have a headache for a few days. That has to be how I do. Here's my high-tech mineral feeder, just an old truck tire with somebody's old protein tub that blew into the ditch. So I don't use anything fancy. This, when complementing cropland with the cattle, so this was some ground that actually ended up being preventive plant on the cropland side of things, planted a full season mix. Looked really beautiful that summer. I didn't get to it till the fall. That's kind of what it looked like when I was out grazing in the fall. And it's amazing how much better the cattle perform grazing something like that in November versus me feeding them CRP, grass, hay, and alfalfa. It just, animal performance is just way, way better with that. This is another example. This is grazing rye in the spring. Just ran a hot wire on that field and let them out there for a couple weeks. Since I don't live at the farm, I put up some cameras for the winter, so I have cameras on all the water tanks. I think, what's the date on this? April 21st. We all remember last winter, right?
Yeah.
So that's been nice that I can monitor that from any place. Here's another tools to get things done, and this is what I'm trying to go more and more away from. So. Yeah, I mean, why wasn't I bale grazing during this? I don't know. So financial resources I've taken advantage of. Equip, I've done prescribed grazing, done portable windbreaks, grass, alfalfa, forage plantings, cover crop. CSB I've done a little bit with. They want you to have a 5-year plan with CSB. My plan changes so fast, that's been a little tougher. I've used the North Dakota cover crop grant once. I think that's $25 an acre up to 160 acres. LRP and PRF, there's a whole session on those today. But I've used LRP a few times. Livestock risk protection, I had it in 2015-16 when the market crashed. And it covered a good chunk of it, but not everything. And then the pasture, range, and forage insurance, I think maybe this is my 3rd year with that now. And it's been dry the last few years, and so that's helped out too. But those programs, if you're interested in them, go sit through that talk. They can get to be kind of tricky. There's a lot you can pick every single coverage and level you want. So there's so many different options with those. How are we doing on the time here? Okay, so just some learning I've had. Obviously, it started here in Milford Farm Coalition here. I've learned a lot through producer meetings and field days, and then I took holistic management. So Josh and Tara Dukart, that was really good, and decided I needed to focus more on the business side. So I went back in 2019 for that. There's usually a reason why people go to these things. I was not making money at the time, so that's why I was going to the financial meetings. And then I did the Ranching for Profit School last February, and that just kind of takes everything to the next level. It's a big investment, but really paid off. So here's some more tools I use. Networking today, just go talk to people, you never know. Group messages. So I think it was the guy I met either at an annual meeting of the Grazing Lands Coalition or the Holistic Management. He called me last year. He says, we should start a group message. I said, okay. And he said, okay, I'll put you in my Telegram group. I said, what is Telegram? I'd never heard of it. Just a group messaging app, and it just organizes things a little better. So we do that. We've got 6 of us in there from eastern North Dakota, eastern Montana, 1 guy's in South Dakota. So we're spread out, but we're all interested in the same things, so that's been really cool. Steve Campbell, talking about the solo cup cow, I've learned a lot from him. I have not done it, but there's a sell-by marketing school through Wally Olson or Doug Ferguson. There's an online one, I think it's going on right now, or you can go in person. But if you're interested in like the stalker, buying, selling, trading cattle, that'd be something to check out. The Grazing Exchange, that's online. It matches up people who have forage available to people who have cattle. I listen to a lot of podcasts because I drive around a lot. and you can see a list of them there. Things I would change here. Find a place to add value. I mentioned that earlier. I wish I would have done that right away instead of just saying I need 150 cows and I'll be set to go. That wasn't the case. Less debt at the start. So when I got the 150 cows, well, what did I do? I thought I needed a tractor, a baler, a disc binder, a rake, a pickup, a livestock trailer. What else does a cattle guy need? Bale processor. What else? So I went out and I bought everything, financed most of it. Luckily, I think my first equipment loan was, interest was like 1.875%, so it wasn't a huge deal, but you know, today's world, wow, that looks a lot different. And if you can avoid going into that kind of debt, I would definitely do that. More risk management, like I mentioned before, whether you're doing the LRP or you want to find a broker and work it in the futures market. I don't think it's enough to just raise a good calf anymore. I think the marketing is kind of what's going to make you or break you in your business. Focus more on quality of life. I worked a lot when I was young, and you can only put a unsustainable effort into your business for a certain amount of time, and then it's got to be sustainable. You can't just burn yourself out. You're going to have to think differently. You know, you can't just say, well, this is what works across the road. I do the same thing. That probably isn't going to lead you down the right road. And plan for profit. You know, if you say, well, I need to make $50,000 a year to live comfortably, figure that in. That's the salary that the business is going to pay you, and then plan from there. You know, look at your expenses, look at your income, cut expenses where you can. If you can't cut them anymore without lowering your production, go to the income side and try and find a spot to add value so you can increase your income. Sounds simple, right? Things that have helped me, time calving with nature. So I used to calve in March, I calve in May and June now. Smaller cows, more cows equals more calves, that's more profit. Select for fleshing ability. I've bought and sold different groups of cows. It's really interesting when you get a group of cows in and you have them for a year. Some just thrive and some are like, you gotta go. So really do that and then match your enterprise to your environment. I'm still working on that. I threw this chart in here because I think it's important to realize where we're at with this cattle cycle. Yeah, let the good times roll, right? Everybody's having fun right now. You know, if you're a young guy trying to get started, really big barrier to entry when prices are this high and input costs are this high. You know, they say it's a 10-year cycle, and I guess this graph is going to show that maybe that's true. And I have no clue where it's going to go from here. I don't know anybody who does. I just think that this level we're at here, I think that risk management is really, really, really important. That's what I have to say about that. You know, when I was doing feeder calves, it was in here going up, up, up. And then I think I bought here and sold there. So I've been through it once, so that's why I have the advice I have. My final quotes to wrap it up here. Jim Garish quote, the more petroleum and iron you put between the sun's solar energy and your cow's belly, the less profitable you will be. Another quote, a business without a path to a profit isn't a business, it's a hobby. So that's like the family cattle herd growing up, that was a hobby. I knew it was there, I wanted to try and make it a business, so that's what I've been focused on. Last one, if you are trying to do, if all you are trying to do is essentially the same thing as everyone else, then it's unlikely you will be successful. If you can do the same thing and it costs you $500 less per animal, go for it. Just make sure you have that differentiation. All right, I hope I left enough time for questions. Any discussion?
Any select sire groups that you appreciate more than others with your cows' flushing ability?
Yeah, so I went down the PCC rabbit hole,
Yeah.
you know, like the Herd Quitter,
Yeah.
Farrow Cow Company,
Yeah.
Herd Quitter podcast. So I've got 3 of the PCC bulls in the yard
You like them?
with the heifer development program. That's what I bred the heifers to. I was able to match the cows up with somebody who wanted that brand, so that worked out okay. So yeah, it's worked so far. But it's a lot different than mainstream. I
bet.
bought my first bull and it showed up and it was like, whoa, this thing's small.
So
So
how are they gonna be to market before the depreciation down, do you think?
the bulls
The cows?
or the cows?
The produce, the production of them. I mean,
Yeah.
the cows that you get out of them.
The principle's the same. It's
Yeah,
just
they're just gonna be a smaller cow.
less
at a
weight per
field
cow.
by far. Yeah.
So your cull cow worth, 1,700 pound cull cow, that's worth $2,000, you probably get, 1,200 for
Yeah.
because she's lighter. But think how much less feed you put into her for 5 years, whatever.
So Justin, talk a little bit about so are these heifers that you're keeping yourself, or are you buying?
Yeah, so like I said, I've only done this 1 year. Last year I kept back every single heifer I had. I went out and sold my steers, bought the same numbers of heifers back from a farm that has the same program as what I want to do. And put them together and put the bulls with them.
And you're running these heifers primarily on forage as much as possible?
Yeah. Yep. I think I bought them towards the end of March, and
Pardon?
I bought them towards the end of March, and
Right.
fed them till the grass was ready, put them on grass. They left in December. But yeah, that was,
Selling them as bred heifers?
yep, hopefully.
Yeah.
There was some opens.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But now, I did that and it worked really good. If I gotta go and buy a $1,900 replacement heifer right now,
Yeah.
that's pretty scary to me at
Well,
the moment.
That's a cheap heifer too. I mean,
Right.
you're gonna buy crap at that. I mean,
Potentially,
yeah,
yeah.
for what they're selling for, it's ridiculous.
But yeah, if I could go out and buy a $1,600 heifer right now, yeah, I'd have a yard full of them. But
Right.
to get one that's got enough weight and what you want, yeah, it's tricky to know where to go with that.
Just want to throw this out there for everyone's info. The Burley County, we're hosting another holistic resource management class here coming up in March, and Josh and Tara are going to teach it, and so that'll be out at Minokan Farm. I apologize, I don't know the exact date, but the information should be out in the hall. And so we're doing that. Obviously, we're firm believers in holistic resource management. They've updated their school, and of course, the Burley District is willing to sponsor. I think the cost is $500, but you'll find that it's worth way more than that. And so the soil district is subsidizing the cost. So. The other thing I'd mention is my plan is to head down and see Doug Ferguson in April. Justin had his name up there. He's got a school on April 2nd, and it's in,
Usually Nebraska.
yes,
don't know
I
the
can't
town.
think of the name of the town.
Yeah, Tracy. Yeah.
He's got the column in the Beef magazine.
Yeah.
If you look at those.
He seems like the real deal, but I want to go down there for myself and see if I do, and I'd be willing to take whomever with.
I went to it in August.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was it quite good?
It was, I mean, if you want to buy and sell cattle,
Yeah.
it's really good. I mean, should live closer to sell barn. Basically, know your value of cattle, know when they're high, sell them.
Right.
Buy something to replace them immediately. You gotta keep
Yeah.
the user system.
Kinda
So
like-
you're in and out constantly,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
concept.
If you want to have the herd, closed herd, and have a certain
Then you
outfit,
don't wanna do
yeah,
it.
that
Yep.
that's not a great fit.
Yeah.
But it's
No,
amazing,
Very
like-
interesting.
Like if you, I was listening to a talk from Wally Olson once, and he was talking about that depreciation and how people manage it. And I mean, it's the hundreds of thousands of dollars of difference on people's balance sheets from, if you value your cows at $1,000 or $2,000.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. If you want to build wealth, that was his advice, is you gotta pay attention to those things.
Don't ask Doug about Wally though.
No, I know they.
There's something happened there.
Not
They
good.
don't, well, and all them gurus nowadays, I don't know, they're always in a pissing match
Yeah.
about something.
Wally's got a website, is it ranching.fyi, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You can check that out if you want. Other thing, I had on there, know your numbers, cash flow, all that stuff. You gotta sit down at a desk and do it, I'm sorry. But if you absolutely refuse to do that, there's somebody advertising, I think it was John Haskell with Ranch Right LLC. They kind of use the ranching for profit, holistic management framework. Just give your numbers to them and they'll help you through it. So.
when we took that financial planning thing from Ducart, he has a big spreadsheet that he'll give to somebody where you just plug in all your numbers and
Yes.
it keeps all of it.
Yes.
So you don't have to spend years building your own spreadsheet.
Yep, and that's like when I had ranching for profit, it's very similar, but you subscribe for $200 a year and you get to use all their spreadsheets and stuff.
But you have to go through the class to do that.
I think so.
Yeah, they take
Which,
it to be
if
a-
you sign up to do that without going to class, it's gonna mean nothing, so, yeah.
Any other questions for Justin? I assume he'll be around all day. And again, the wealth of knowledge, really appreciate his sincerity and his willingness to talk about it. But with that, I think we'll lead into the break. Let's give Justin a big round of applause.
Is there